learning and trying. We have a lot of engineers that were near these, and they all, they're looking at me like I'm crazy.
We need to get started here. I can't see one person. There we go. This room is awesome, except those two columns are a pain in the neck. They're terrible. When setting up lighting and camera, we're always up to like, all right, where's the columns? All right, we need to set and adjust and compensate for that and figure out what we're doing. So let's get started. Hopefully you are here for the session on streaming and team building. Hey, come on in. Welcome. My name is Steve Devine. I am not Wally Brath. I know in the program it said Wally Brath was going to be here. He had something come up. He was not able to be here, so I am taking his place. I am on staff here, faculty I teach in the Worship Arts Department and the VPMA Department, the Visual Performing and Media Arts departments. I teach some classes in audio recording and video production, audio production, things like that. I've been here doing this for a couple years now. I graduated from Grace College a long time ago. Well, I'll tell you, I graduated in '95. I have been in ministry my entire life, and by that I mean my dad is a pastor. He's retired now, but he still is a pastor because, as I always joke, you can take the pastor out of the pulpit, but you can never take the pulpit out of the pastor. Those of you who might be pastors know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I've grown up in ministry, and I've been doing ministry as a living for 25 years. I graduated in, like I said, '95, got a job working for a church here in town for a few years, and did that. And then in 2000, I started at another church in town called Warsaw Community Church, and I was there for 20 years. And I did everything from music to creating slides in PowerPoint, which thankfully we moved away from PowerPoint to Purpose Center and other things. And I've led bands. We are video department. I was in the team that helped create that, got us online, doing video in the room, and then later on got us doing streaming. So I've been doing this stuff for a long, long time. I've seen lots of things, lots of technology come and go, and have just been, I'm sure, where every one of you is at some point in doing this, which is, hey, we need to do this. Can you do that? No, but I think we can figure out how to do that. Let's give it a shot. So I know everybody here is at different levels of knowledge of what you can do, what you are doing, what you need to do, because not everything that, say, we did at WCC is going to be appropriate for what you're doing in your ministry. Everybody has different needs, which is why in this I am not going to say, here is exactly the setup you need to stream, because you cannot do a cookie cutter thing like that. It's simply just, it won't work. You'll end up spending $40,000 for something that you could have spent $1,000 for, or you will spend $1,000 and realize we should have spent $15,000. Spending money is something that has to happen, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So that's a little bit about myself. What else do you need to know? Like I said, I went to Grace. I was a double major, music education and computer science. And little did I know, 25 years later, I would be using both of those majors together. I just never really imagined that to happen. Like I said, I'm a teacher here at Grace. So you're here to learn about teams and tech. First thing we're going to talk about is teams and team building, because I am convinced, and you will have a hard time convincing me otherwise, that to have great tech, you have to have a great team. We have just gone through a couple years of pandemic, and we have seen what it's like to live in isolation, and we've seen what it's like to be without teams. And I don't have to convince you, being in a team is really important. To do tech in a team is also critically important, because most of you, and me for that matter, would like to do things that we might not necessarily know about, which is why the two guys in the back I have invited to be here. Josh is the one who's standing up. Josh Lee is his name. He is the technical director at the church just a couple blocks over, the Winona Lake Church. He is super smart, especially with audio stuff. So if there are audio questions, we might lob them his direction because video is more my area of expertise. And Grady is a student here at Grace. He's in the worship arts program. He's a worship arts major. We have 2 tracks to the major, music side and a tech. We just added technical arts. So you can come here and major in technical arts, which I think is really great and really necessary for the church. He's got another year left, Grady does. He will be looking perhaps for a church worship job. If any of you are looking to hire, I can vouch for him. He's a great guy and super talented, everything you'd want on a staff. So that's Grady back there. He's going to help me by pushing up one fader and pulling one fader down throughout the course of this. Or he could answer questions about the major. Before we get going, there's food over there, snacks over there, water over there. Please take it. If you don't eat it, I'll end up eating it, and I don't need to eat it. Or I'll give it to Grady. He's a college student. They'll eat everything. Out that door to the right, if you need, is a bathroom. So you can feel free. Those are the important things. This is the worship arts department. It's 6 years old, so it's still brand new. A lot of the things you're seeing here, we just got this summer and started implementing, like these lights that we'll bring up. Tell you what, Grady, why don't you just go and do that right now real quick. Pull up fader 3. There we go. These lights that you're seeing, we just got these installed. We'll talk some about this and about lighting and general lighting concepts if we need. Okay, you can pull that down because we don't want to do it all at once. We want to save some things. Lighting, the video, this is all like the first time it's being used. So if there are any glitches, I apologize, but that's what happens when you do bleeding edge technology. I love this stuff. I love working with this stuff, and it is kind of a passion of mine. Getting back to the teams thing. Obviously, you are all coming from varied backgrounds with different levels of knowledge or even interest in tech. I know not everybody here is even that into tech, which is fine. We all have our passions. We all have our giftedness, which is why I say you need to build teams. Because if you find the right person who's really into this, you can say, hey, we need to do this. What do you think? And they'll say, that's cool. And you can say, go do it. I don't know what I'm doing. And you can have great things happen. And this, I'm convinced, and this is what we started doing in the last few years in my church, is what the direction I think that the church needs to go. We need to get people in and we need to empower them to do the ministry. You know, when I was growing up, the kind of way the church was done was there was the senior pastor, and the senior pastor did everything. If it needed done in the church, they did it. And then as the church grew, well, okay, now we need a youth pastor too, and we'll throw some worship things on the youth pastor because that's what it is. So your staff did everything, which is the way it was done, which I'm convinced is not the way it needs to be done now.
Sorry to interrupt that.
No.
I'm recording this because I've already got a headache thinking about all you're saying. So I'm like,
Yes. Is it recording over there, Grady? It's on that machine number. Well, you can't see the number. I'm recording this.
cool, thank you.
By the way, also, and I apologize. I have a tendency to be rather scatterbrained. So I understand it, and it's something that I've learned to embrace. But if I get off on tangents, that's why. I made a list here, and this is pretty much every bit of tech that you see us using is listed here. From cameras, to tripods, to computers, to switchers, to all these things. So I have this, and I have 10 copies. I also have it in digital format. If you get me an email, I'd be glad to email this. It has links and everything. So this is not meant to be a, you have to buy this piece of gear list. This is meant to be a, I need to get started with streaming and I need something to switch my video. What are some ideas that I can use to get started thinking about? These might work for you. They might, hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. I was hoping to see you here. This is kind of a hard place to find. So anyway, this will be available on the back. If you want a digital copy with the links, feel free to send me a message and I will gladly email that to you. I have a business card that's back there that has an email address you can use. Wally's business card is also back there. There's also CDs. Can't remember if I mentioned this to everybody. I'll say this to you because you just walked in the door. Feel free to take one. Feel free to take two. Those of you who are too young who don't know what CDs are, they're round and they contain music. On the back of it is a QR code you scan, and it takes you to Spotify. It's also available on Apple Music. So team building. And we found this was the case at WCC. It's a big church, a couple thousand people, so we had larger tech teams. We could, and I kind of work this way. I'm a doer with stuff. I'm a task. Like, I got to get this done. All right, I got that done. Good. Set it aside. Now I'm going to move on to this. And it gets easy for me when I'm working with my techs to say, hey, I need you to run that light show. Great, thanks. Hey, thanks for running the light show. See you later. And task is done, and check off person is done. That's a really, really bad way to do things. That's a terrible way to do things, because they're going to see themselves as, oh, he just needs me here to push buttons and then I'm done. Which, away from the church, is a bad way to build teams. In the church, it's horrible because we're not here to do programs. Programs and tech, in the end, they're going to burn. There's going to be nothing left. It's the people that are there that we're taking with us to eternity. We have to focus on them. So when we're building teams, there's kind of three things I focus on. See if I can remember how I was up till past 3 o'clock this morning. My brain's spinning, thinking, how am I going to do this? And I've already forgotten most of what I was thinking till 3 o'clock in the morning. So we need to know them, we need to know about them, and we need to care for them. First of all, we need to know them. Hey, they walk in the door. Hey, good morning, Greg. Good to see you. Gary, hey, you're running camera for us. Thanks for running camera again for us. Hey, last time you ran camera, what you did was really cool. This one time you did this Zoom thing. Man, that was fantastic. Know them by name. Welcome them. Shake their hand. Let them know that you're glad to be here. They're glad that they are here. That is so important. At the end of the day, I don't know what prompted me to do this, but at my first church job, when we finished a service, I made sure I went around to every one of my technical and music volunteers and looked at them, shook their hand, and said, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate what you did. And then I would try to remember something that happened that they did. Hey, that guitar solo that you did, that was fantastic. Thanks for running the slides. You were really right on top of that. You know, nothing was late. People weren't wondering what. Great job. Thanks for doing that. That makes such a difference with people. And you can't do it just as, oh, thanks for doing this, and not mean it. You have to care about them, which is the next thing. You have to care about them. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? I know you just suffered a loss. How you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? Can I pray for you? Hey, congratulations. You just had a baby. You got a new child. You getting any sleep? How's the kid doing? How's the family doing? You just changed jobs. How's the new job? You know, at Zimmer in town. You're teaching. You're doing whatever. Know about them so that you have that relationship with them, because it's all about the relationship. Build into that. Pray for them. This is absolutely huge. If you pray for them and they know you're praying for them, wow, what an impact that makes on them. We would meet every Sunday morning before church, and we would pray for the service, for the people coming into the service, and we would ask, does anybody have anything that you need prayer for? And we learned so much about people that we had no idea. So then we would take time and actually then pray for them right then. And then when we'd see them later in the week, hey, I prayed for you. How's this, whatever we prayed for, doing? Monday mornings as staff, we would meet. And we would kind of talk through Sunday morning what happened. And then we would say, hey, what are the prayer requests that came up yesterday morning? And then we would take time on Monday morning to pray again for those. What a huge thing and what a huge blessing. Thursday nights, we would rehearse Thursday nights. Before rehearsal, we would pray. And I had an aha moment many years into it. At the end of rehearsal, I would stop and say, hey, before we go, let's pray. We need to pray because, as you know, we're not just making music. We're not just making lights. We're not just making videos. We're doing spiritual warfare here. We have a very real enemy who wants nothing more than us to catastrophically fail. And we would come together on Sunday morning and people would share and they would say, you know, it was the craziest thing. After Thursday, I started having these negative thoughts. I started having these bad things happen between Thursday and Sunday. And it was very real, Satan at work, trying to kick him in the rear end, trying to make him say, you're not good enough. What are you doing singing up there? You got no business doing that. You shouldn't be going to church. The roof's going to fall down on your head the minute you walk in there. You don't belong in church. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up, Satan. Get out of here. So Thursday, at the end of rehearsal, we would pray over everybody and say, Lord, protect these people, protect our friends the next 3 days from Satan's attacks so that they can come Sunday morning without having had to deal with that. So any chance you can get to pray for them, do it. I'm saying this like I was some amazing, miraculous prayer, but I'm not nearly as good at that as what I should be. But every chance you get, do it. It's just such a big thing. So know who they are, know them. Third, take care of them. Prayer is one way to take care of them. A simple, tangible way to take care of them. Provide food for them. I mean, this is a simple little thing that we started, but it became a big deal with our volunteers. Actually, we call our volunteers unpaid staff. We were paid staff. They're the unpaid staff. They're equal status with us. We're not up here and they're down here. We're the same. So our unpaid staff, we would have snacks for them. We started this, Justin Schaefer, who is the worship pastor at the Monona Lake Church, was on staff with us at the church. He bought this silly little rickety cart off Amazon, and we loaded it up with snacks. We got chips, salty things, nuts, trail mix. We put sweet stuff on top. We put granola bars. We would even get some healthy things, which sat there for months until we threw them away because nobody liked healthy things like that. Tech people run on two things: caffeine and carbs. That's what tech people run on. This right here, this is gold right here. We had no idea. We bought various things. I got these because I love Nutty Bars, and we put them out there in the first week. They were gone. So we went to the store and we bought the big boxes of these. They're gone. It actually became a thing. Like, people would come in and Nutty Bars was a part of their volunteering experience. So we made sure we had like the big boxes, 3 or 4 or 5 of these big boxes there, just in case, because once or twice we ran out. People would walk in there like, where's my Nutty Bars? Well, we got these granola, but where's my Nutty Bars? So we never ever ran out of Nutty Bars. You never ever know what is going to become a thing. But when it's become something significant, like silly little things like Nutty Bars, take note and make sure it happens. We had certain volunteers who liked certain things. We had a coffee pot. We always had fresh coffee. But we also got a Keurig because someone didn't like coffee, and we got the little hot chocolate and the little apple cider things that you can put in there so they could have that. Or we also had a refrigerator with water, because there's those who just wanted water. Find out what your people like and provide it for them. That makes such a difference. They come in, they have a place where people are caring for them. They have a place where people know them and know their needs and care about them, and you give them food. By the way, there's more Nutty Bars back there. I'm going to put this box back there right now. Or they're called Nutty Buddies now. They work hard called Nutty Bars. Now they call them Nutty Buddies. I don't know why, but that's what Little Debbie did. Yes, they probably could copyright Nutty Buddy, and they couldn't copyright Nutty Bars. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. They're all fantastic. It's all a part of growing and developing your teams. Growing and developing teams is the greatest thing that we can do to grow our church, to take people to heaven with us. The text that we get in, and it was a little, some people might say a little scandalous what we would do. We had worship team, we had tech team, right? There's the worship side and there's the tech side. Actually, we had one team, and we were very, very, I'm going to get out of the soapbox here. We were very, very intentional, and we worked very, very hard to make sure everybody knew it was one team. This group, the music people, are not more important than this group, the tech people, period. We're all equal. We are all equally important to presenting the gospel, right? I would tease our musicians and say, the tech team is not here to support you. You are here to support the tech team's habit. That's your only job. You have to get up here and you have to sing and you have to make music so the tech team can do what they want to do and what they're gifted to do. That's right. That's right. they knew that I was just kidding. I had the advantage, I'm a musician as well, so I was on music side, I was in tech side, I was with both. Our technical director had great relationships with the worship people. He was a tech guy. We worked super, super hard to make sure that everybody knew that everybody was the same and everybody was equally important. If you get a divide between tech and music, it can take you down. It can be a terrible thing. I've seen it happen. Fortunately, I haven't personally been a part of it, but it's real. And that's another thing Satan will just like, did you hear what he said? He's looking down at you. Did you hear what they did? They did that wrong. They made you sound bad. I mean, just, I'll get off my soapbox. Be very, very careful not to do that. That's really, really important and easy to let it happen. But the coolest thing, and then we'll move into tech, actual tech things, but one of the coolest things that we had, there was one Sunday, Steve and I were there working, and we looked around, and we started looking at all the people that were there running the show. And up in the tech balcony, we had a lighting person, we had an audio person, we had a video switching person, we had a person running slides, and we had a person running our remote cameras. Down on the stage, we had a drummer, lead electric guitar, acoustic guitar, keyboard, bass, 3 vocals. We had and we had camera operators. We had like 15, 16 people all running the service. And we looked around and not a single one of them was paid staff. Every single person running it was volunteer. I get worked up just thinking about it. That is so fantastic. How far have we come where I was like, this, I'm running sound, get away from it. This is my job. I'm doing this, to where I'm trying to work myself out of a job by letting all of these people be a part of something much bigger. Wow, that is so cool. That is so fantastic. Building teams to do all of this, it's, man, what a great thing. What an incredibly rewarding experience that is. To stand there and look and go, I got 15, 16 people all here because they want to be here, and they love doing this, and they love being a part of this. What are they doing? They're advancing God's kingdom. I get to stand in the back and lean against the wall and go, this is really cool. This is so cool. If something goes wrong, I'm there to help them out. But during the week, I'm putting things together. I'm getting things ready. I'm getting songs ready. I'm arranging things. I'm getting light shows ready so that all they have to do is step in and do their job, and it goes well for them, and they have a good experience. And at the end of it, they look at me and go, that was so cool. Wow. Did you see when I did this, that happened? You know, I started this video and people were into it. And I looked around and there were tears falling from this video that I ran. I did these light shows and I hit this button and these lights moved. And when it happened, you could feel the energy in the room just go like this. Whew, that is so cool. They say, thank you. Thanks for letting me do this. Are you kidding me? Thanks for letting me do this. So that's how important teams and team building is. Not just so you can get something done, which is really important because we are in over our heads when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But even more importantly, getting people in, making them go, oh, I can do something in church. Before, I thought, well, I can't serve in a church because I can't sing and I can't play an instrument. I'm not a theologian. I can't get up there and teach. I don't even like to be in front of people. I don't really even like people that much because I'm an introvert. I am an introvert, actually. Standing in front of a group like this and starting something like this is just like, I have to force myself to walk up here and start talking. Once I get going, obviously, it goes all right. But anyway, these are the people who are like, I don't even want to go into church necessarily because I feel like I'm a pariah, like I don't fit in. And then they come in and they say, well, I can't do anything. I can't sing. I can't do this. I can't be a youth leader. I am not sitting in a room holding a baby for an hour. I'm not going to do that. There's nothing I can do. So they come in, they consume for an hour, and they check out. That's unacceptable. So we get them. They come in. Hey, I guess I'll volunteer. I don't know anything about tech. We said, that's all right. We'll train you. You can do this. I'm going to have you run a camera. I don't know how to run a camera. It's easy. You grab the handles, you move it back and forth according to what your director says. Okay, I'll give it a shot. Put the head on. They come up afterwards. That was fun. I enjoyed that. All right, next week we have something for you. See those cameras down on the front? It's called a floor cam, and you actually can roam around with it and get shots. And like, get a shot of the worship leader. Here, come over here. And there's the drummer. I don't think I can do that. Yes, you can do that. They go out and they do that. They come back after doing that and say, that was the coolest thing I have ever done. Trust me, running a floor cam is about the coolest thing you can do. It is so much fun. They get excited about it. When can I serve again? When can I do this? Well, we have a lot of people. We can't have you doing it every week. As much as you love it, you do need a week or two off. You know, your family, you have to sit with your family in church and stuff like that. That's important too. Create a love of doing that. I have a love of doing that, and I have a love of people learning to do that.
You're baiting them into the fun jobs and the cool jobs first, and then you give them the boring stuff.
Well, see, and that's another thing that you have to be really careful about.
All right, next week we need you to come in on Tuesday and clean.
Right.
The sound is getting a little fun.
We need you to take this vacuum and clean all the little pots on the sound call. No, that gets me to another thought. Don't just create a job to fill seats. It has to have value and has to have meaning. You mean my job is I come in at the beginning of the service and I hit this button and then I sit here the entire time. At the end of the service, I hit this button. You don't want something like that. You want something that when they finish, they go, oh, that was important. If I didn't do this, there would have been less. The service would have been somehow less. So yeah, make sure you don't just create busy work in that. Also make sure you don't burn them out. Like I said, you need time away. Even if it means, this Sunday we're going to have less. We're not going to have a full band. We're going to have just a person with an acoustic guitar and just one vocalist, as opposed to 3 vocalists and a full band. To not burn. I've been in situations, I'm not proud to say, my first church gig, I was responsible for more than a few people getting burned out. Because I forgot that I'm getting paid to do this 40 hours a week. They have a job they're doing 40 hours a week, and they're coming in and giving their extra time to do that. So unfortunately, I learned through them learning the hard way that burnout is a real thing that happens, and have to avoid it. Do you have a question?
We have a problem with a lot of the kids that want to help and stuff, but then they can't get there in time, and they want to jump in 5 minutes before service, and they don't know what's coming up, and you're like, I don't think you can do it today. You don't know what to expect here. We haven't went through this.
That's a hard thing. You have to, and we run into this with some musicians. We rehearse on Thursday night. You got to be there at rehearsal on Thursday night if you're going to do this. Obviously, things come up. There's emergencies or whatever, and we make accommodations for that. But if you're going to be on the team, we need you to commit to Thursday night rehearsals, because we don't have time on Sunday morning to put it together, because we have 3 services. We have an hour ahead of time to do a sound check, run through intros, outros, and transitions. That's what we have time for. So we need you to be here Thursday. Same thing with things like that. If you're going to be running switcher, you need to know what's going on in the service. So we need you to be here, and we need you to know these things ahead of time. Getting kids involved is great. We had several kids that were getting involved. One was a middle schooler. He was learning to run audio, and he did a fantastic job. Things like video, these kids grow up with these things in their hand. They know how to use these things, right? So yeah, what a great way to get them involved in serving and then get them involved in church, so they don't grow up going, church is lame, I hate it, my parents make me go, right? We don't want that. Give them like, oh, this is cool, I can be a part of this. But at the same time, you have to figure out, we have expectations. You got to be able to do this and this. Otherwise, yes.
I know, but a lot of times the parents don't want to come early. They can't drive that.
Yep.
The parents don't come early.
Then you have to figure it out. Hey, you know what? This person is looking for something to do. Would you mind driving around, picking up these couple people and bringing them into rehearsal, or taking them out to great opportunity for small time? Hey, we'll grab supper and then we'll come.
Just to tag on that, we were part of a church where our son was in 4th grade, wanted to do that. And the adult mentality, even though my husband was a pastor, was, you're too young, you can't touch this stuff, it's too expensive. We changed churches, and a good friend of ours, Mo Graham from college, said in the middle of the week, hey, I need to build an electrical cord. And so my son and I went in an evening, totally not related to any other church time, and he's helping Mo build this electrical cord. Much bigger church, way more expensive equipment, and Mo invested in him non-church times. Today, my son is on a movie set. He just graduated from college. He wants to be a director. I'm missing him very much in my life. I always was like, Ben, fix this. I'm a little stressed right now, especially because he's here to interpret everything you're saying.
That's kind of the downside of getting kids to do it, because they eventually go to college, and then, but it's critically important
And
to invest in
it
them
was
and get them to do it.
life-changing for him.
Mhm.
And it really was an adult issue. So we found a workaround, and I was like, well, I need help doing the grunt work.
Mhm.
And that, I had no idea there was many different chords. It all looks like a chord different way.
Oh boy, they're all different kinds of chords.
Yeah.
Yes, from an XLR to an IEC to an HDMI to all these things. The SDI, yeah, there's tons of different ones, and they all do different things. Yes, get creative. Get creative. Hey, what time do you get off school? Well, I'm at work for another hour after the time you get off school. Why don't you come in and we'll show you this? Or, whatever.
It's a good way to, if the parents end up leaving the church for whatever reason, it's a good way to get the kids to come back into church as well. We had a couple of kids that worked in our sound booth for probably a year and a half. They did great. Their parents got disgruntled and left. And as soon as they both hit 18, they contacted my husband and me and have been in contact. They're not in the area, but they've been back in contact and back in church.
Great way to build relationships.
Sunday morning stuff. So,
What time is this going till? Is it supposed to go to
12:45.
12? Oh, good. I was thinking 12:15, thinking we've only got 25 minutes left. We got more time. So let's move into the tech side of things. I was thinking I was going to, okay, let's talk through this. I think we're just going to throw all that out and say, where are you all? What do you need to know? The basics, the very, very basics. I teach a class called Visual Narrative. And I started the class off saying, okay, here's everything you need to know about visual narrative. We're talking about stories. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and the end. There will be a test at the end of this, and that's all you need to know the whole semester. It's a joke, obviously. What you need to know for doing live streams is you have to have a way to get your stuff in. You have to have a way to get your stuff out. And in the middle, you need to put it together and make it, sweeten it up. So you have to get it in, you have to get it out. So this could be mayhem, but what is it that you're hoping to learn the most from this? Is it what cameras to use? Is it switching? Is it how to make your audio better? Is it? I saw your hand first, and then we'll come over here.
I know you're at a small church. We were at large churches. Went to a small church that has nothing. So I was used to ProPresenter, which we bought.
Great investment.
I was used to Planning Center. This church has church teams. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I'm
it's
not.
designed as a database for more small group.
Okay.
We're working on the building relationship thing, which is easy for us anyway. But when I'm looking at the overall picture, I see an unorganized mess behind the scenes. And so my comfort level wants to just be like, we're buying Planning Center. But my husband's like, I need you to justify it. I know enough music to be dangerous. I was classically trained, but then that whole tech world came in there. So I want to know what can I clean up organizationally underneath? I can buy equipment. Well, I need to justify it. But,
Right.
what are the nuts and bolts for a church, small churches that have nothing? In other words, we're a restart.
Okay.
I was used to, you need ice, you go get the ice machine. We don't have that. You need maintenance, you go get the maintenance group. We don't have that. It's us.
Yeah.
So, Grace Church of Aiken in South Carolina. So I think other people might be in that. We use Google Drive. It's okay. I am really good at Google Drive. I'm a teacher.
Right.
But I'm also about investing in things that save me time. So it's worth the money to me if it's going to save me hours and hours of time. So that's what I want to know.
Wow.
Sorry.
That one totally caught me off guard. I might lean on Josh a little bit for this one. So what you're curious about is tips or techniques that can streamline what you're doing,
Right.
but you don't have the budget to go crazy, obviously.
We've got to be on there kind of sometimes having discussions, we could call it, doing a little bit of what you talked about earlier. And so I'm like, if we clean up the organizational side, they're all talented. But part of me some days wants to go back to a little piano and let's just make it really simple.
I'm a piano player. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also love the rock and roll. So
And
I see both
don't
sides of
mind
it.
having him next to 21 Pilots if they had a worship
Mhm.
song. We
Wouldn't that be
have to have
something?
a balance.
right.
So how can we most effectively do that?
I am not gifted administratively. As much as you can be gifted administratively, I'm at the other end of things. So for me, we had a great administrative person who would help keep me and all the other creatives in line. Say, you need to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, I do? Okay, I'll do that. Who would then organize teams. Like for praise, like our worship teams, we had enough to where we were extremely blessed. We had enough where we could have 4 separate teams.
So did you use Planning Center? Did you have
We
it
use
well?
we use Planning Center.
Okay.
Is everybody familiar with Planning Center, or those who are not? It's an online resource where it kind of does everything. It started as a way to organize church worship departments. You would have people, you could put all of your volunteers into it and use it as a way to schedule and use it as a way to communicate with them. They would put in the best way of communication, email address, phone, or whatever. And then you could schedule out weeks. And so you would put in the order of your service, the different pieces. In each piece, you could put who was involved, how they were involved. And then once your service, and you could also put in your songs. So you would put MP3s of the songs so they could listen to the songs. Cool thing about Planning Center is this original song was in D. We're doing the song in G. You could hit a button and it would transpose the music and they could hear it in the key that you're going to be playing it in. Now, sometimes if it was a big jump, it would sound a little chipmunky, but at least they could practice with the song in the same key. Plus, you could have your charts, so you could have your music there to see they could print it off and practice with it. Once the service was ready, you say notify. It sends emails out to everybody saying, hey, we have you scheduled for this Sunday to play guitar, to run a video switcher, to run a camera. We have you set to be an announcement person up front. You're going to host. You're going to welcome people. I would let them all know. So Planning Center is a great tool, and it has grown way beyond that to where you can do all sorts of stuff that I don't even understand. Josh, have you tapped into Planning Center any more of the things that it can do?
Yeah, I mean, there's integrations with ProPresenter. I mean, you're familiar with. Honestly, when it comes to organizational, it's one of those things where it's probably one of the hardest parts of the job is like getting volunteers to say yes, bringing new people in. I think like that volunteer, like what he was stressing with like allow freedom. I think it's really easy as a leader to like hold tightly to something because you want it to come out perfect.
And you have an idea what you want it to look like.
But I think honestly, something I've had to learn is just opening my hands and saying, hey, run with this.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know exactly what it is. I may not know exactly, or I may not have the time because I don't know. When it comes to organizational, are you talking about like volunteer scheduling? What specifically?
That part I can do. Sometimes there was a little bit, as I'm looking at folders, miscommunication as to what parts are in the folders. And I'm trying to figure out what do people need.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are people that don't read music and people that do read music. My brain just jumped to something else because our particular sanctuary is not a square. They added onto it. It's the most goofy room I've ever been in. I can actually walk into spots and the sound just drops.
Mm-hmm.
So my lead guitarist might be like, well, I can't hear myself, and someone else is trying to listen to them. So I was used to an Avion system,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we don't have.
That's it, the in-ear monitors, for those of you who might not know. So when you see people with in-ear headphones playing, that's what that is.
Right, so, and I am looking a little bit for things just to be solved, because I'm passionate, I get people from all over the states that I know that would be awesome. But my daughter.
This is that type of system.
My son's fiance just showed an app called Clang. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't know that one. You know Clang? That's another thing about this. There's always new stuff coming up.
Well,
Always.
they're at a very large church, and basically she's like, well, in my in-ears, I can decide if I want to listen to the drum, help me keep beat, or I can listen to the bass guitar, and she's adjusting it, and it got rid of all the Avion stands because it's on their phone.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, you mean everybody gets to decide? And she's like, yeah. So
There are some audio digital consoles that will do that as well. You can just adjust your own mix from a tablet or phone, and it talks to the console and it controls what you hear.
So any information like that you have, good, bad, ugly.
What kind of board do you guys use, do you know?
Currently, it's an analog board and we want a digital, which I know is gonna be thousands of dollars, but then other people are like, well, and then we want this, and then we want this. And I'm like, I need to know what is the most important thing to start with.
Well, I always say when I'm talking about video, like live streaming, we haven't gotten to this. When you're live streaming, what's the most important part? Audio. People are used to looking up people's noses for live streaming and things like that, and they can ignore that. But if your audio is garbled and it doesn't sound good, or the mix sounds terrible, or all you hear is a screaming guitar and you can't hear any of the vocals, click, I'm going to something else, because I can watch this megachurch, that megachurch, this megachurch with amazing production values and amazing speakers. Why should I listen to you when it doesn't sound good?
So what's the keys?
Audio is the most important thing. Also know your audience.
Yeah.
When I was at WCC, we were pretty aggressive in our mixes, meaning drums and instruments were pretty hot in relation to vocals. I know at the Winona Lake Church, they're a little less aggressive. Vocals are mixed hotter. Why? Just because that's what they expect. That's what they do. That's their culture. Over here, this is our culture. If you're in a church with 60 people, it's going to be a different culture than 600 people.
So-
Or with a more aged population than a younger population. Just know your.
Explain to me in a traditional orchestra, band, whatever, if you have dynamics, yes, microphones help, but the instrumentalist has some control over the sound and the intensity.
Mhm.
So now you add in the electric instruments, do they have control, or is that all from the tech?
You have to work.
It depends if you ask the musician or the sound guy.
You have to work with your musicians. Yes,
No, they don't have control.
they're not supposed to.
Who's not supposed to?
The musicians are not supposed to have control. And here's why. I will look at a guitar player and I will say, you know what it sounds like where you are. You don't know what it sounds like in the room. That's our audio engineer. He is managing what the people in the room hear. You manage what he gets.
And that's mega critical when you're talking live streaming. Because none of the stuff you're hearing in the room necessarily translates to the live.
Very, very much.
I learned that.
Very hard.
That's where your digital board comes in handy.
I've had you stop them from switching certain.
Yes.
Effects
Different-
on their guitars in the middle of service, because if your team can't handle it and isn't prepared for it,
Yeah.
because they weren't there until 5 minutes before,
Right.
you're in a train wreck
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We would with our lead player especially, we'd say, all right, in sound check ahead of time, give me all the patches you're going to use.
Right.
Play your rhythm patch where you're just strumming, play your lead patch where you're going to be playing loud. So we would know what they're going to do. And then we would say, you got to stick with that. You can't be fussing around with this changing and making changes to the service, because you're going to cause headaches for our poor audio engineer who is busting his tail or her tail to make this sound as good as it possibly can. So, and we would also work it out in rehearsal. That's the value of rehearsal ahead of time. So we all know what's going to happen and we all know what to expect on Sunday, so that we're all on the same page and we're all together. And we don't have a prima donna guitarist with their volume going, my time to shine. Wah! We're all a team. We're all together.
Right.
We're all, and that's the vision
That's
casting
the-
thing
like,
too.
You talked about the Avion system. In-ear monitors
Mhm.
are the sound guy's favorite. thing
Yes.
in the world.
Yes.
Because a hot live monitor mix on the stage ruins most rooms. Unless you're in an arena somewhere, typical church auditorium, you just screw the
Yes.
whole thing up. So we use a Behringer X32 board. It's
Mhm.
a popular digital console that you can get for $2,000
Yep.
or $2,500.
I think that's what we got with our last church.
Midas is,
And it's.
they're the same company. They do the same thing.
Yep.
So if you hear Midas X32,
Yeah.
same thing.
Like, by the way, the X32 comes with an app on your phone that you download, connect to the board's Wi-Fi, and you have the in your mix.
Yep.
You can plug headphones into your phone.
You have your own, and what this
So
means
y'all
is,
need the extra Avion stands?
exactly.
Right, I mean, it would be nice to work up to that, but like,
Yeah.
you just tell your team, have some training sessions, like,
Mhm.
all right,
Okay.
download it's called the MX, or the Mix U.
I don't remember what it's
I have it
called.
on my phone. My dad uses it.
I've used it before too. It's slick.
The smallest stage we've ever had. I don't know if other small churches are like this, and I hate clutter. I
Mhm.
put one extra music stand.
And your stage fills up real fast.
Right.
So-
that's why I'm asking.
You can get a stand that will hold an iPad.
Yeah.
And if you're using Planning Center, for example, you can load up your chart on your iPad. You can have your app running on your iPad controlling your in-ear mix. So on stage, you don't have a music stand and a separate Avion. You have one thing with a small, or tablet, doesn't have to be iPad. And it's all right there. Or if you're on a piano, it's right here in front of you. It doesn't take up much space, and you kill two birds with one stone that way.
I discovered I can even turn their sheet music for them from my seat, and I was like, as a musician, I probably would really hate that.
Yeah, it's some of the things you can really do are really cool. Another thing, and talking about controlling sound on stage, what we did at WCC is we said, I know this is going to be a different thing for you guitar players and bass players. No amps. No amps on stage. Amps are gone. You can have your pedal, and that's what your sound is. Grady doesn't like that, and I know a certain kind of your sound comes from your amplifier putting a microphone and turning it up and distorting it. I mean, that's just the way it works. However, for that application, we had to look at them and say, it's more important that we can control the audio in the room and we don't have your guitar completely drowning out everything. As awesome as what you're doing is, as much as I love the way you play, we need to be able to let our audio person control the room. You control what you play, you control your ears, let them control the room.
And if they're stuck on it, stick it in the back room and put a mic on it.
You can do that. You put blankets over it, just put it way back and you can muffle the sound.
And Momentum Youth Conference, it's always in a big arena, 2,500.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And a lot of the guitarists insist they've got to have their amplifier. And literally, they get stuck backstage in a room with foam around them and a mic in front of them, because just their amplifier in a huge room screws up the mix.
Yes. Same thing with these things. You notice in here we have this big cage around it. I prefer acoustic drums. They really do sound different than digital drums. But they're hard to control. They're really hard to control. This is another sacred cow that I will get in trouble with Wally if he was here. That thing right there. As much as I love a grand piano, a grand piano is one of my favorite things in the whole world. I love a grand piano. However, right there, that tool, golly. If you have a Nord, this is a Nord Stage 2, a Nord 3. Wow, the Winona Lake Church just got one. I've had a chance to play on it at a couple services. Oh my goodness, that thing is so cool. But a digital piano, as opposed to that, can help so much your audio controls, especially in a small room or a room that's really boomy and echoey, because an acoustic piano can take over your mix and you cannot control it. And so as much as that is kind of a sacred cow for a lot of people, it might be a thing that you need to say, you know what, we need to go to a digital one. That's a hard move, especially for pianists. Get them a weighted key with 88 keys. Don't settle for less than that, but that's a tough one to do.
This is a hard change of topic, so if we're not ready for this, it's okay. But I wanted to talk about lighting and like, just being tasteful and adding to the worship set rather than it being just like a light show concert.
Mhm.
Just wanted some tips on that, because the church I'm at, we have had the same lighting setup for like 30 years. And we've got, I believe, 10 lights in the back that shine on the stage, and they hit everybody at eye level. And like some of my guitars stand on elevated
Sure.
areas.
On
and so
platforms and
they're-
things.
They're cut off at their eyebrows. And so it is like, it's just time for an update.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, we're looking to do some updatings, but I don't want to, I just want to be tasteful and
Sure.
and the worship experience.
Sure. I'm looking. Slim Par. This light right here. This is a $100 light.
Okay, okay.
We've got, so for lighting, that's not bad. I'm sorry?
What grade is it?
Chauvet, it's a Slim Par 56.
Way more curly.
So Grady's wanting to do this. Pull up fader 3, please. So look at the image right there. Would you do me a favor, Grady, and turn off, I think it's the second switch from the left. It's the lights above the stage. From the left-hand side, I think it's the second one in. Nope.
How do you spell the brand of that light? Why are you?
There it is. Chauvet. Chauvet. Another company that makes a lot of stuff that's starting to make. Chauvet started as a DJ company. They made DJ lights. I mean, they made it super cheap for DJs to go in and do stuff for weddings or whatever. And they started then making a professional line of stuff. And originally their stuff was pretty cheap, junky. And they've picked up their game, so they make a lot nicer stuff. Another company that's doing that is called American DJ. ADJ is what, and I think those might be American DJ lights, the ones on top of the truss.
I own a Christian DJ company, and I just bought a 4-can one of those, and it was only $200 at Sweetwater.
Mhm.
So even the 4 cans are fairly cheap.
So yeah, so and they've started making better things. So if you look at the image of me right here, don't look at the subject. Look at the color of the skin on camera and how it looks. How I am lit, hopefully not washed out too much. If you would pull that fader down and turn back the light on over my head, and then look how the color changes on that screen. Bad lighting makes a person look sick, makes you look yellow, makes you look green. You need to be thinking those things through when you're setting lighting. Some things to think through on lighting, and you're going to get a little bit from my media production class. Go ahead and turn this off and bring the fader back up. I have several different parts lighting me, right? I have lights hitting me from the front. I have lights hitting me from the back. Let me back up one thing. As much as you can, don't mix your types of fixtures. All the lights hitting me right here are LED lights. If we have the lights that are sitting on the floor there are tungsten, they're actual light bulbs, like light bulbs that light up, and they will give you a different color temperature. And these lights and those lights can fight. You might get flickering happening. You might get weird things happening with color. You might, if one is over here and another kind's over here, this side of me might look kind of yellow, and this side might look kind of green or orange or whatever. So as much as you possibly can, which I realize in your case is not going to be possible, but as much as you can, don't mix fixtures, bulb types. So what I have here is I have these two lights that are hitting me like a spotlight. This is loosely based on what's called three-point lighting. Three-point lighting puts one fixture as the primary light. It comes from this side, usually about a 45-degree angle to the side and about 45 degrees up. Our ceiling is too low, so I can't go that high, and our room is too narrow, so I can't go that wide. We're making, as you all know, making do with what we got, doing the best with what we can. So this one is over here. This one, this is my primary light. Doesn't matter which one, it's called your key light. It lights me up. If this light was the only light that was on, you'd be seeing shadows on this side of my face, right? So I put this one on as a fill light to fill in the shadows. When you're lighting a stage in general, if you have people going the whole way across it, try to think, I need to hit them. I need to try and get them with two fixtures. If it's a wash that's going across 5 people, that's okay. In this case, it's a spot just hitting me. But I want to be able to get from generally from two angles. One as a primary light, the other one to fill in shadows. The one over here is not as intense, right? I don't have it turned up as bright. That is for more of a theatrical or produced, like if I'm on a set producing a video. If you're doing a whole stage, generally you're probably going to do equal lighting across it. There's no hard, fast set rules to this. Well, some people would say there is. My philosophy is find out what looks best and do it. If it fits to some strategy of doing lights, sweet, rock and roll. If not, okay. Trust your eyes, trust your ears. So 3-point lighting, I have 1, 2 points. Third point is this. This is really, really, really important, especially if you're in front of a black background. It's the backlight. It's hitting me on my shoulders right here. It is helping me. So especially if I was just like, I have a black t-shirt on underneath it. If I took off my gray shirt and I was just wearing a black t-shirt, I would blend into that background and you wouldn't see me. I'd disappear. You'd see this floating head here, which would be weird. So your key light and fill light and some sort of backlight to light, put a little bit of a halo around my head, not an angelic halo, just to light it up and separate me from the background. That's 3-point lighting. This has a little bit more than that. Since this is a black curtain, I took some of these pars and shot them up on the screen just to make it look a little more interesting. Also to differentiate the background. If I'm moving around, it helps keep me separated from the background. So when you're lighting, those are some key things to remember. You want to light them, try and light them evenly, more than one angle hitting them so that you don't have any weird shadows. If it was too high, you'd see a shadow coming down from my nose. You'd lose my eyes from my eyebrows. They would, I don't know, like if I turn my head like this, you lose my eyes. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to be able to see their eyes. You don't want any weird shadows happening. And then hit them with a backlight to help them stand out. When you're designing and thinking of your lights, you have to think of it, especially if you're live streaming, which is what we're talking about here, from two different perspectives, right? You would look at this and say, well, sitting in this room, we don't need all this stuff. Before we turn this on, you could see me just fine. I was lit adequately. It looked fine. Our eyes and our brains looked at it and adjusted and said, that looks perfectly fine. Cameras do not do that. Cameras do not lie. If I'm lit badly, the camera is going to show me badly. So you have to think, this looks good for the room, but also how is this going to look on a camera? And you have to take that into account. When you're getting a camera, when you're thinking about a camera, I have an iPhone here. Those are Sony cameras back there. The one on the pedestal is a Canon camera. Get something that you can set manually. Most cameras by default are automatic. You turn it on, it adjusts the focus, it adjusts how bright it needs to be, it adjusts the white balance, which you don't even, is a term you don't even know what it is probably, but it adjusts that automatically based on all the light and everything around it. It just does it. When you're doing video production, you do not want automatic because each camera might see that differently. So this camera will show my picture and I might look great. And then when I switch to this camera, I might turn orange because it has different chip, it has different settings. That is jarring to our viewer. You want, as much as we love our tech and as much as we want to show off our tech should be invisible to the person watching. It should not distract. This is a goofy analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. I have 4 daughters. My wife and I raised 4 daughters. They're all grown up and moved out, thank goodness. I mean, they're all grown up and moved out. I love my daughters. When they were growing up, and like I said, this is a goofy analogy, but stick with me. And they started to get in their teenage years. They wanted to learn to use makeup, right? Put on makeup. I want to look like, pick your favorite star. My wife was very careful to say, when you're using makeup, it has to have one purpose. It has to accentuate the natural beauty that's there. It's not to cover up what you don't like. It's to accentuate that. Tech is the same thing. It's to accentuate what you have. It's to make your speaker come across more clearly. It's to make your band blend better. It's to make this vocal and this vocal and this vocalist, their harmony parts fit together like a glove. It's not to make this one stand out and this one stand out and this one stand out. It's to accentuate what you're already doing because hopefully you've got good team members who are doing, good quality stuff. So when you're talking tech, think of it that way. So lighting is meant to make it so that this looks good. The cameras are meant to be so that people can see when they're watching online and not be a distraction when I switch from this camera to that camera, or when I change from singing to speaking. It's just, it needs to be seamless so they don't even think about it. Mhm.
I think what I'm gonna go off of her, if you're finished for that, and I think you're going there, so I just wanted to mention it. What I was
I'm
gonna say earlier.
Pretty random.
Yeah, what I was gonna say earlier was that kind of a similar situation, small church, but the reason honestly why I'm here today is I wanted to, we're actually in the process now of wanting to purchase some new equipment and, low budget, not going big, but really bare bones, just for audio and video, the bare bones of what is best. I went to school for all of this.
Uh-huh.
And technology, that was a decade ago. So
Oh,
in college,
Yep.
everything is different now. And I did research and there is so much out there that I was a little overwhelmed of where do we begin? And so I'm talking with my wife, like, where do we jump into? And she did research too, but really just advice on the bare bones of video and audio.
Mhm.
What are some good, options that can really come across? Right now,
I'm listening.
right now, we're using a tripod with an iPhone,
Uh-huh.
but we're setting it about 7 feet away from the speaker, and it distracts everyone else.
Oh, yes.
Because of the phone, and it's not great. So
No, I get that. I'm setting things up because this is, I'm looking at it sideways. This is not easy to do. Let's see. There. Why are you dark screen?
or even in today's world, the pros and cons of the phones versus
Uh-huh.
paying extra money to get an actual
Yes.
like the Canon.
There are, when getting cameras, two things I would recommend. There we go. Go there. You have two things when talking about cameras that let me back up. What do you want to do with the camera? You have to ask that question. What's my purpose for the camera? When we were at WCC, we had a huge room with a flat floor that if you were in the back of the room, you would have trouble seeing what was happening on stage. So we looked at it and said, we need to get IMAG. We need to get image magnification so people in the room can see. Because if you're in the back looking around, we had a family of basketball players that was like 7 feet tall. And if you were behind them, forget it. I mean, so we did it because we had a purpose. We needed to be able to see in the room. If you're in a room like this and you say, I want to put it on the screen, I'd say, why? You don't need to put this because you're looking at here. If I'm a speaker and you're all staring at the screen right here while I'm talking, it's really distracting. That kind of, you want to do this. So first of all, do you need image magnification in the room? Yes. Well, then that's going to drive a certain thing about what you do. No, if you're at a small church, you don't need to do that. You might want screens to put lyrics up there. That's really important. Message points, announcements, that's all super important. Yes. So then think your cameras through from that perspective. Okay, well, I don't necessarily, if I'm not putting it in the room, I don't have to have broadcast level cameras, right? That camera right there was a couple $1,000s. And it's great. Things that I was talking with Mark, I think, ahead of time. Two things that I think about when I'm considering a camera. One, these are digital cameras. You want to get the biggest chip you can. They have a chip inside on the other side of that lens that sees the picture. The smaller the chip, the lower the quality it's going to be. The larger the chip, the better a picture it's going to take. I mean, it's a matter of physics, kind of that way. Second thing is, what kind of zoom does it have? There are two kinds of zoom. There's digital zoom and there's optical zoom. I just lost the word. Optical and digital. Optical is the actual glass. The glass is moving in and out. Optical zoom, good. Digital zoom, bad. What it does at a digital zoom, it takes this, it has this sensor that does this. It's this big at taking a picture. All it does is stretch that. And that's when it becomes grainy and looks yucky. So these two cameras, the remote cameras, I went into the settings and you can say, do you want to allow optic or digital zooming? I said, turn that off. I do not want digital zoom. So depending on how far back your camera is, you need to have a camera that has a good amount of optical zoom, which is the lens moving in and out. You can zoom in really, really close to somebody and your picture stays nice and sharp. So those are two really, really important things to think about when getting a camera. Other things to think about are, what are you going to use this camera for? These two cameras, and I'm looking at lights, they're right beside each of these movable lights, suspended from the ceiling. They're Sony PTZ cameras. They do not have anything on board to capture video. All they do is bring a picture in and send it out the back. That's all they do. Are you going to want to use this camera for more than that? That Canon camera right there, I can pop it off. I can carry it around with me. It has cards. I can record stuff to it. I can plug microphones into it. I can do all kinds of things. When you're getting tech, always think, what do I want to do with it, but what might I want to do with it beyond? So these Sony PTZ cams are fantastic. They're up high. They're out of the way. I don't have to have a platform taking up 3 chairs, blocking the view of people behind me. They're right there. They're out of the way, and they're not, they're great that way. They're limited. I can't pull it down and go out and do field recording. There's another one right there hanging from the ceiling. It's black. And there's one hanging on that side, is hanging from that metal basket, like on the other side of the camera.
That's what we use for streaming, is we have something very similar to PTZ cameras.
And Sony makes them. There are lots of other companies that make them. Televideo is another company that one of Josh's volunteers really likes. Lots of companies, and again, this is new and it's growing. So what existed 3 months ago might be different today. So you have to think through, do I want to do more than that? That Canon was a good price point. One other thing to think about is, if this is for streaming, how am I getting the signal from that camera back to whatever is streaming? We have it going to a switcher like this one back in the back. This is called a ATEM Mini, has 4 inputs. These inputs are HDMI inputs, like the same thing you plug into your TV at home. That comes out of your Blu-ray player. Excuse me. If I have a low battery on camera 1.
You do.
I shouldn't. I thought I plugged it in. Oh, this is what's known as a high impedance air gap. I didn't plug it in. We're going to lose that soon. I don't have time to plug it in right now. HDMI was designed originally to plug your DVD player into your television, to go from here to here, a 5-foot, 10-foot, 15-foot. To run it the entire way across an auditorium is not necessarily the best thing to do, because they're not designed for that kind of distance. We have one running from that computer in the back up the wall and over to here and down here and into this computer, and it's working okay. But I would not, and the cable length is not just one cable. If I have 5 cameras running this length, add all those lengths together, and that's how much cable length you have. So be aware of that. If I'm running it from that Canon camera to that switcher right back there, who cares? I can plug a 15-foot cable into it, HDMI, just fine. If you're going greater distance, you need to consider a different way of transmitting that signal, which is called SDI. And that's basically the type of connector. It's round. I have an SDI cable. Oh, it's sitting back there on top of that connector. It looks kind of like the old cable TV ones where you put it in, you had to twist it, and it like ripped your knuckles apart trying to get it in there. It looks kind of like that, only you push it in, click, and it locks. SDI can go over great distances. So you need to think, when I got that Canon camera, I thought, I don't know where it's going to be. I need to get a camera that is capable of giving me SDI out, not just HDMI out. Unfortunately, if you get a camera that does SDI out, that's going to put your price up a little higher, because that's considered a high-end feature, and they're going to charge you for a higher-end feature. That camera was around $2,000, I think. So you need to think about what you're going to do with it. When I'm running cameras for a church, one camera really is not good enough. I'll be honest and say it's basically a billboard. You put it in the back, you leave it. Yes, it will get the picture out there and people can see what's going on. But I will say it's good enough. And for me, when I'm doing tech, good enough is never good enough. I'm of the opinion that if I want to do it, I want it to be done excellent. My goal is to be excellent. There are times when I can't do excellent, and I will settle for very good. I will not settle for that's good enough. Sometimes you have no choice, but I'm never, ever happy when I have to settle for good enough. One camera is good enough, sitting in the back. Every time I go to zoom it in to the teacher or zoom it out so I can see what's going on stage or pan it side to side, and it's a distraction to my viewer. It's much better if I can have a couple of cameras, even if they're ones like this that are static. This is just sitting here. It's not going to move. But if I can switch between these, or I can have it on the teacher and I can take that camera, or I can have another camera and have it of the full stage. So the teacher gets done and we're getting ready to switch to a time where there's more worship. I can switch to the camera that's got the whole stage from that was the tight shot of the pastor switching, and they're not seeing the camera movement. Then I adjust this camera while it's offline, right? While it's not being broadcast. That's a preferred way to do it. That camera is on a tripod so I can follow my teacher, because when we're watching someone teach, we want to have a tighter shot. You don't want to be looking from the drum cage to the TV and have, a wide shot just showing that, because it doesn't feel like you're there as a part of it. Part of our goal for live streaming is to make the person who's sitting at home, who can't be here, who maybe they're, like my parents live in Grace Village, they can't get out. The goal is to make it so that they can feel like they're a part of the congregation. That's really important. There's people who say, oh, we shouldn't make our live stream too good because then people won't be coming to church. I say, bad idea. I say stronger things than that, but I will not say stronger things than that here. No. Yes, it is of utmost importance for people to come and gather together. That is the primary. Yes, we can never get away from that. That is supreme importance. But there are people who can't. They just simply cannot. Or, maybe they're away on vacation or whatever, want to connect with the church home. We should, through our streaming, strive to give them an excellent stream, an excellent thing. We need to. That's another soapbox I'll avoid getting on too much. So 2 cameras, the follow spot so you can have a nice tight shot so I can feel like I'm right with them in the room, mixed in with wide shots so I can see the congregation. So I can go, oh, look, so-and-so's there. I wish I could be there with them. Oh, look, I love that person. Oh, yeah, or whatever. So that you can also feel like you're a part of the congregation. Both are important. I saw a hand.
Yeah, we're very low tech.
Mhm.
We've been doing YouTube.
Mhm.
I think the day's coming when we might be banned from YouTube. What do you do?
There are lots and lots of services available. Josh actually can speak to that.
Yeah, so, the free one, there's 2 things. There's content sending, so you have to have a way of sending it to a platform. So if you've got that part sorted out, that's one thing.
Platform would be like YouTube, Facebook Live, or whatever.
Facebook, whatever. And then there's the platform. So one platform that our church uses is called Church Online, and it's actually free, provided by Life Church. And so you can create your own host name and actually integrate it into your website if you want. If it's too complicated, if it's simple, you can keep it as simple as you want or get as complicated as you want. But the Church Online platform allows it to where it strips away all the ads, strips away everything, and it's just, you click it, it takes you to the site. It's got the image of the teaching, and then you can also, there's a back end side that you can have volunteers help run, and it would have like a chat area. The YouVersion Bible app is integrated into it, so you can read along while you're watching. There's schedules for upcoming services. And so like our church integrated that and made it to where we changed the host name, so they're not doing lifechurch. Blah, blah, blah. It was just live at WLGPC.com. And so that would be one that I would say. Now,
You could also with them, like I think Life Church does this, and there's others that say, you go into their dashboard or whatever, and they say, where do you want to send it? I would like to send it to YouTube. I would like to send it to Facebook Live. I would like to send it to whatever service you want. And it will rebroadcast to all of them, whichever ones you want or whichever ones you don't want. Like if YouTube, for whatever reason, you can't use YouTube, maybe they're flagging you for copyright or worse things happen. Fine, buy YouTube, go into Facebook, go into Vimeo, go into wherever. So there are services like that. Resi was another one that you used.
So Resi is a streaming, so that's content sending. So once you get it from your camera or from your switcher, it's sending out, and so you need a way of sending out, and it creates an encoding key that the platforms can pick up. So has to have an encoder that sends to, and Resi is an encoder. RESI.
You
That one costs a little bit more, but it's reliable.
That's the thing, that it's reliable. To stream, reliability is absolutely critical with your internet service, obviously. I prefer, if I'm streaming, to go plugged in directly rather than through Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi can be flaky. There can be lags, it can drop out. And when you're talking internet service, like at home, I have 360 megabit internet service. Woo, that's super fast. That's coming in. I only have 12 going out. So you need to know, what is my upload speed? Because upload speed is your video being sent out to the world. And if it's really slow, if you only got 3 megabits or 5 megabits, you could run into trouble. So you have to dig a little deeper and say, what's my upload in addition to not just my download speed?
With Resi, what makes it useful and to us for our church worth the money every year is I'll get a notification. So it's a delayed stream, so there's like 90-second delay. So if our internet drops off and it can't handle it, I'll get a notification on my phone, a text, and it will be like, hey, your network's down. And then I have up to 90 seconds to go plug my phone into the encoder, and I can run it off of a hotspot. I mean, it runs really low speeds. So for country churches or different things like that, it's really useful. But honestly, even, you don't have to have that. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways of sending to the different platforms. I mean, even your switcher up there, I think, has
Well,
built-in encoder.
and we're not going to have time to get into it, but yes, this switcher here on the back of it is a network jack. If I plug in my network jack, I can plug that directly into the internet. I have to go and do a little configuration, but I hit the online button and it streams directly from it. I do not have to have another single piece of streaming hardware I can do there. Now, I can plug it into the computer, and the computer, and I can go to YouTube, I can go to Google Chat, I can even do Zoom through it, and it will see it as a webcam. So when you drop down your camera and it says, what source do you want to use? Oh, I can use my built-in camera on my laptop, or it will see this as a webcam. I select it, boom. It is now my camera source, and I can switch between my camera number 1 or camera number 2, and this side that says this is called a multi-view. This is showing me all the things that my switcher is doing. Right here, this is what is going to the stream. So as I switch back and forth, now my switcher is on there, and now that is. So using that and using this switcher, either through the computer or plug directly into the internet, I can go to stream. One thing I was going to talk about that we don't really have time, you can do virtual switchers. Which one to use?
Phoenix. Love it.
There's lots of them. There's new ones being created every day. There's one called Switcher Studio, which is iOS only. Unfortunately, you have to use an iPhone or an iPad. There's another one called Manycam, Manycam. It was designed more for teaching from, but with Manycam, you start up your software, your switcher version of it. I can connect this phone, I can connect this phone, I can connect a tablet, I can connect another computer to it, as long as they're on the same Wi-Fi network, and it will see them as a video source. So if I had this one and this one connected virtually to my Manycam source. Is this computer on? I could start it up and show you. Wake up, wake up. Are you connected? You are connected. There it is. Yeah. Manycam. And you can, not only can you have cameras, but you can also load a PowerPoint show into it and say, right now I want to be looking at camera 1. Okay, now switch and show my PowerPoint. So you can have slides. So if your teacher is teaching through different verses, and then switch back to the camera. You're not going to be able to see things, I don't believe, because And actually, if I go program. So these are my individual input sources. Actually, one of the cameras is live. It's connected to it. This is my webcam right here. Hi. So my webcam on my computer is a source. I can click on this and say add source. This is going to be tricky trying to mouse backwards. Right hand. You can do IP camera or mobile device. If I do mobile device, these are all my phones that I have added to it. If I click on one of these and they're on the same Wi-Fi network, it will show up as a source right here. And I can switch using my computer. I don't even have to have a hardware-based switcher. I can switch using my computer between all my different sources. Right here is a PDF I loaded up. Go to it. It's getting cranky with me because I haven't configured everything. There we go. So I can load up a PDF document and say, hi, this is what I see. Read through, let's read through the morning psalm together, Psalm 95. And you can load up, I can play a video from it if I have a video loaded up on my computer. Hey, we got a video from our mission partner overseas and we're going to watch it. I load it up in here, click, it plays. This will handle all the streaming for me, software based. So I don't even have to have a separate switcher. These things are really, really slick and actually surprisingly cheap. I pay like 30 or 40 bucks and I got an unlimited lifetime license. A lot of them, you say, hey, do this trial. You do the trial. You say, I'm not interested in the trial anymore. They say, come on, please try it. No, I'm not interested. Please try it. We'll give you 50% off. Okay, now I'll do it. That's the game that you have to play. But yeah, it's worth it. For a small church, I don't have to spend, this switcher's $500, which is cheap for a switcher. There's an even cheaper version that does not do the multi-view out for, I think, $300. The one back there has 8 inputs. It's $1,000, but it's got 8 inputs, and you can do a ton with it. With this ATEM Mini, I can plug 4 video sources into it, be it a computer like this or a camera, HDMI. I can also plug 2 separate audio inputs. This microphone right here is wireless to a receiver that's back there that's plugged into that switcher. So the audio that I'm doing right now goes to that switcher, which is going to the live stream. So you can plug 2 separate audio sources into it, plus the 4 sources, video sources, since they're HDMI, pass audio through as well. So those can also be audio sources. So beforehand, I had music playing from this computer. I don't know if I still can. If I have it muted or not. So you can use this as an audio source. You can play music. That's our EP that Grace made. So there's all kinds of stuff that I'm about out of time, but all kinds of stuff that you can do if you just get a little bit of knowledge and know how to start. Think through your live stream. What do we want? What's the purpose for it? What's my video purpose? Am I going to do iMag in the room, or is it just going to be online? That will determine what you do. I would recommend getting a camera on a fluid head tripod. Fluid head tripod. This one is not fluid head. So when I try to turn it, it goes, it's really awful and jerky. A fluid head actually has hydraulic fluid inside of the tripod so that when you move it, it's like butter. I mean, it's just super, super smooth. And therefore, not distracting and not jarring to your viewer. So if you have a pastor, we had a pastor who would almost like run back and forth, and our camera operators were exhausted by the time the service was done because he'd be doing this. But with a fluid head, you can get nice and smooth. These PTZs have a harder time following that movement. It'll get to the end, and then you can see the gears shift, and it does this, and then it moves smoothly. It does this, and it moves the other way.
Well,
So-
depending upon where those things are mounted, like I heard I went to a conference last year. They were talking about some mounted on walls,
Mhm.
and well, the door shakes it, so you lose that picture if it's not,
Yep.
you know,
Or a tech balcony, if they're mounted underneath a tech balcony.
Or
Yes.
some big lug like me comes and leans on the sound booth to talk to somebody, and I shake the tripod.
Or they're too close to a subwoofer.
Yeah.
We had that. We mounted cameras on the back wall in a very big room, and since ours was a little more aggressive mix, the subwoofers, actually you could see the camera start to do this. We had to put shock mounts in there. So
That helps the people online
Every time the kick drum does this. So, think through, what am I going to need to do with this? Do I need to follow somebody back and forth? Consider a tripod with a fluid head. Because like I said, you want your tech to be invisible. It does cool things, but it should not be the focus of what you're doing. What is the focus needs to be the focus. Keep the main thing the main thing. And that's reaching people with the gospel and teaching them, giving them the news that they need to know, even if they don't need to know, or if they don't know that they need to know it.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, I'm going to stick around even after the time's done. So if there are questions, we can.
What do we do with YouTube and Facebook not recognizing CCLI licenses and fun stuff like that?
Right, they block you out.
Every single week I get kicked off Facebook.
What is it? What is it that does it? Is it pre-service music or is
It
it?
is actually our worship service.
When
We don't
you're-
have a band, we don't have
Ah,
people that are able to do music in our church.
So you use
we
tracks?
We use tracks. And
Josh?
Every single week.
any thoughts on that?
The only thing that I would do is I would just say that, maybe link the songs that you're doing and then go by 10 minutes in the service or whatever.
See, we
Uh-huh.
started.
I'll set this back there. This is the list of all of our tech.
For University Schools, I started streaming about 15 minutes before, so I started to slide those around half.
Because you can run it down.
Yeah. And what's going on for the week, and have a countdown. And then for the actual worship service, I have the music playing because I would like the people that are watching to be able
Sure.
to worship with us.
Yeah.
But every week Facebook kicks us off. I have our CCL license on screen. I have it in the notes. I have it anywhere I can think to put it.
Yeah, it's weird because it seems like some people just get
Yeah.
shut down completely because I manage our Facebook page and literally it'll pop up and it'll go, we've muted a portion of your service.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, unmuted. And they're like, okay. And then
I don't get the option anymore. They said I don't get that
Yeah,
option anymore.
you've been flagged.
Yeah.
The thing is though,
Yeah.
we've been lucky.
when you sign up for CCLI,
Uh-huh.
and they'll sell you a streaming license.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how, maybe you guys do, I don't know how you let YouTube know, or Facebook or anybody, that you have a license to do it. Does anybody know how that?
Every
works?
week, the claim is released almost immediately after service. As long as I am still streaming, I'm not allowed to have any form of violence anymore.
Oh, so live, they flag
Yeah.
it, but once it's no longer live, they'll
Once it's
allow it.
live,
Oh, because then they can
yeah,
monetize
process
or whatever.
it and do whatever they do with it. And
So some of one of the hard things for me, even for us, we have a lot of those problems. I'll say the Church Online platform doesn't do that, so that's one
Okay.
option is to shift to that platform.
There's also maybe other services like Vimeo are not as well known, who might not flag you.
Yeah, YouTube is good. I think I've only been flagged
Okay.
in there once.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
but Facebook is awful.
They flag everything.
And they change from time to time. You might be fine, all of a sudden, bam, you start getting flagged. How does it work? I don't know. Voodoo magic.
I had about a month when we started putting the CCL license everywhere.
Ah, the man grabbed the nutty bar.
But
Yes.
Where do you purchase the CCLI?
It's free.
Oh,
Sorry, CCLI, sorry.
CCLI is not free.
No, not at all.
It's CCLI is the website. So CCLI.com, I think. But you can do a search for.
If you pay a fee for the year, and then.
There's
you're
another
allowed
one as well that we have. I can't remember what it is.
the word
A new one from-
free, and you, for streaming, and it's based on the.
I'm really purchasing on that. I just use
Yeah.
the numbers.
It's Christian Copyright Licensing Incorporated.
Every so often, they ask you to report what list of things you've done, and then they make sure that the copy is fake. They make sure the copyright owner gets that. Well, in theory,
So we're past the allotted time. Like I said, I will stick around if anybody has questions, or if you want to eat nutty bars or snacks, there's lots of them.
it's harder to take that.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question on the PTCs.
Uh-huh.
So my church got approved for $10,000 for doing
Nice.
stuff. In December, we get internet,
Mhm.
software, and I don't know, just to do fiber optics or whatever. internet.
Sure,
So
sure.
we're just shooting for the first time. So you get a $10,000 budget to buy
Okay.
new equipment. And my tech guy went out and put all this stuff together, what he wanted, and he has 6 PTCs.
Okay.
Cameras. Whenever I've done it, I've always used broadcast and my exchangeable lens cameras.
Okay.
So I've never used them. like you said, if you want to do more, PTZs aren't really the option, like what you recommend. But all we do is just stream, so all we're gonna use those for is streaming.
Mhm.
We can't have a roaming camera, we can't
Sure.
even, it's not really a spot for a tripod in the camp, it's just a small sanctuary. So there's
Sure.
not room for it.
Absolutely.
If we did that, there's some members of the church that would have a heart attack. But
Right.
are the PTZs having 3 of them, is that good
Um,
enough? Like, is that good?
Probably.
Probably.
We can do.
Josh's at WLGBC has 5 PTZs
Okay.
and 1 manned camera.
Okay.
And you have to think a little bit differently, but you set your cameras and you can zoom in, you can get a huge variety of shots. You can even zoom in and out and do some basic panning with them, and it's really nice and really smooth. The one thing that might be a little harder is use like a follow camera. But there's a ways around that too. You can have this camera set to the left side, this camera set to the middle, this camera set to the right side. And then if they move over this way, just switch to that camera and do that way. Yeah, you definitely can work around it and do just fine.
I leave our 2 stationary just because our auditorium's small enough. If I did, it would just make our shot look weird because there's not enough room for them even to.
Yeah. And it really totally depends on your room and what your program is. If you have a worship leader and a piano player, well, there's 2 shots. You don't need tons of stuff because there's 2 people, and 1
I
speaker.
get 'em in one.
Now I occasionally, my parents, like I said, are at Grace Village, and they have 2 PTZ cameras, and I every once in a while go over there because their sound guy is away or whatever. And there's 2 cameras. I mean, we got 2 cameras, and I like to do interesting things because I get bored easily. So I'll have one camera, a tight shot, and then another camera, a wider shot, and then I'll be on my tight shot, and I'll slowly start a slow zoom out, and then I'll switch to it. So it's, doing a little movement that way. It looks really smooth. You can set it nice and slow. It looks really natural. Even if it's just 1 person or 3 people singing, you can get all kinds. And then make sure when you set up your cameras that the angles are far enough apart that they don't look the same, like the same camera. Because if you have one here and one here, well, then they're getting you the same shot. But at the same time, also make sure you have one that's on center. Definitely you want one that's on center. To get a center shot to get this things. And then, put the other ones off to the side so you can get different angles. Interesting shots. I always make sure I have 1 shot ready as a go-to shot. If I look and oh crap, all my cameras are doing other things and this person's talking, go to my go-to shot that's in your wide shot. And then I can say, hey, camera 2, get me a close-up on them if you're doing that. But yeah, I always make sure I have 1 shot that's full stage that just in case, or between, like if we're between singing and teaching. So you can see the whole stage. People who are online aren't looking at an empty podium going, wonder what's going on in the room. I have no idea. They can see the shot. Oh, I see the worship team leaving the stage. Oh, I see the teaching pastors coming up now. I can see what's going on in the room. They feel like they're a part of it, which is really an important thing. And then when the person gets in place to teach, one of my other cameras is ready with a tight shot, and I switch to them, and we're off to the races.
That's what I'm used to. I go to Huntington for film.
Oh, sweet. They have a great department there.
Sweet. But we just did a Saints Road concert. We were the first ones to actually have a live stream.
Nice.
So
They're on campus?
What's that?
They're on campus?
And actually, we had it at big church in Fort Wayne, Blackhawk.
Oh, yeah.
We got to do it there. So we used all their equipment and
Oh, that is so cool.
Awesome. But that's what I'm used to is like directing and like, camera around, you ready, like, flow with the sound, whatever. And then like this, we have 3 just basic mounted cameras that one person kind of controls.
Yeah, we have a controller back there that's, you select which camera you want and you move it.
So that works quality-wise, you're not missing anything with those.
No. I mean, granted, if you have a broadcast camera with amazing glass on the front, of course it's going to be better. But these PTZ cameras, and this is a model that is actually discontinued. They don't even make, they've made new ones since then. They look just fine. You hit it with enough light, you light it just right, it looks fine. And you just have to adjust what your expectations are going to be. I'm not going to be doing all these huge sweeping shots and all these great things.
No theatrics.
Right, no 3 ads. What's the point of what you're doing? My point is so that we can see the teacher and every so often switch to a different shot just to make it a little more interesting. Your expectations aren't Sanctus Real concert.
Right. The other question my tech guy asked, is there a point
those are HDA.
Our sanctuary, we have 4 rows of pews. Balcony in the back, probably 30 feet wide maybe.
Okay.
And we're gonna mount 3 cameras, 1 in the center, 2 on the side. Is it worth doing that? Is that, I mean, wide enough to make those 3 cameras worth it?
Probably. What they did have you been in the Monona Lake Church?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
They have, it's a rectangular room, and there's a balcony in the back.
Yep.
Their whole front of house is the back of the room in the center. They have 1 camera in the center in the back, 1 camera on either side, just about the whole way back, and they have 2 cameras on either side, 1 camera on either side, almost to the front. The cameras that are way in front really are just, in a lot of ways, not that usable because they're so far forward. If I'm on stage, the camera's looking at me from over this side, and it's just not a great shot if you're watching. It just is uncomfortable to look at. So when I've switched there a few times, I will use those as an interesting shot for a few seconds, but then I go back to the farther back cameras just because they're more practical. But yeah, I would guess that you have your center one and the ones the whole way off to the side. Maybe how deep is the room?
50, 60 feet.
They're probably going to be all right, like right on the corner. You might want to move them down just a little bit more towards the front, but only a little bit. And what I would say you could do, and this is not a bad idea, just get a stand or a table or something, plop your camera on it, stretch a cord the whole way to wherever your projector is and plug it in and just look at it. How do these shots look before I drill a hole in the wall? Does this look, oh, that looks great. Perfect. Put it up there. You would know this from doing broadcasts. When I'm putting a camera up, these cameras really, they're a little too high. I want my camera so I'm looking in the eyeballs of my people so that I feel like it's like this and I'm not looking down on them or I'm not like this, So just keep that in mind too, how high you mount them.
One of ours is over the soundproof door, and that's our straight on shot. That one's pretty good. My dad's the pastor. He's a tall guy, so it works because of how far it is. The other one I don't love. It's too high. It's too similar to the other shot. I want to move it. I just haven't figured out where to because that requires rewiring stuff.
Oh boy.
And
Yep. So always when you're doing this, always think of the viewer. Is this comfortable for them? Will they be distracted by it? Or is it awkward? Like we had 1 camera, we temporarily had it up in the tech balcony, which is way up high. And it was, looking down like this. And we go from 1 camera that's looking this way to another camera that's looking this way. And it was awkward. And they're like, let's leave it there. I said, that's awkward. We cannot. But it looks cool. You can see the whole room, but it's not practical. We need to get it down on the floor at a more head height. So yeah, always listen and look from the perspective of your viewer. Don't look at it from the perspective of the room. Look at it from the viewer. Are they going to feel at home here? Is it going to make them feel welcome? Are they going to feel like they're a part of the congregation? Yes? Good. No? Don't do it.
have you played with any of the integrations with like YouTube and Facebook into having comments come up on screen?
I don't know.
VMX has a cool plugin with it that you can moderate it, so you can put and set it
Right.
right up.
You can allow or not allow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, we love that. When COVID first hit, we were fortunate enough, we already had everything set up.
Yeah, we had the same thing at our church. We had just switched over to a digital system, and like the next week, COVID shut us down. We were ready to go,
Yeah.
thankfully.
We went in like a couple days before we did all the streaming from church, and we set it all up, made sure it worked, and Sunday morning, we just, instead of everybody being there, they were at home.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. There were a lot of people were scrambling, and we were fortunate. We were very fortunate. We had planned half a year ahead of time to
I know there were
replace our audio
our
system.
district that had nothing, had nothing.
We didn't either.
Yeah,
That's when we started doing it.
and you—that's what everybody was doing. Almost everybody was just like, "Oh no, what do we do?"
We've been streaming since early 2000, so that's been, I mean, the first one we did, we had a little like video camera,
Mhm.
and it looked awful, but we had something.
Yep.
Something better than nothing.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Sure. And make sure you grab stuff back there. Grab a CD. Grab a tech list.
I got 2 questions.
Yes.
We are using an iPad to record with
Mhm.
for Fitcher. We don't have a cord run to that. The guy that's running it tells me he cannot plug that in anyway from our sound system back to feed that. So he's just getting what he's getting from, from the area. I think we're losing our sound.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you said it here before, the auto is a number one, and I think
It is the highest
we're
priority.
not there.
Yeah, this can be used to send your picture and audio out of your camera, but it doesn't come in that way.
Yeah.
If you had like a computer,
We do. We shoot words up there.
if you had a computer that's handling the streaming, then you could plug audio into it, like through the Minicam app.
There's no way we could actually run a cord and feed that iPad and put it into that.
Yes, there is.
It seems like it.
Yes. Let's see here. I'm thinking on my feet. B&H. This is the website I use. I buy everything from there just because they're like the Sweetwater sound of video and audio.
Okay. We're also in the process of buying a board. We were looking at Sweetwater, but
Mhm.
we're going a different direction.
Oh. Here we go. Look at this. Rode SC something. It's an interface. That's not the one. That interfaces with these things. Oh, come on. All right. Let me go through the menus. Mobile. Maybe.
But we don't have a cord right there yet, which is
Mhm.
good.
Yep. This would require us running a cord there to this. Yes. Here we go. I have something like this. Actually, I didn't even bring any over here. Something like this
Okay.
that I use with my worship art students. And this is the basic design of this is you can plug a microphone into it,
Uh-huh.
and then this interfaces with your phone. It has
Okay. That's what I think it seems like. It
has
should
a
be.
Lightning or USB-C or USB-A cord. So you
Yeah.
pick which cord you want.
Yeah.
You plug your audio source into here, and then these actually here, and then this middle one you can plug headphones in to monitor it, see how it sounds.
Okay. Yeah.
So then what you would do is you'd run your from wherever you'd run it and plug it into this one, plug the other end into your tablet, and then it would be your audio source.
That's what I. Yeah.
And there are other things like this.
Or are we better off to go buy a cheaper camera and put the camera back further closer for our sound system?
That camera right there has XLR inputs, so you can plug a mic. You can run if you wanted to, you could run left, right out of your. If you're running stereo, you don't have to run. You can run mono. Plug it into your camera. Say use this. That camera has adjustments, so I can adjust my audio levels, so the signal's not overpowering it. It takes that signal, mixes it with the picture that I have, and there you go. And you have to figure out a way to get that picture to stream it, because that camera doesn't stream directly to the
You
internet.
have to hook it into something.
Something like this.
Yeah.
And you can get this. They make devices that, and I don't know, there's tons of devices that you just plug a camera in and it streams
Yeah.
pretty cheaply.
Yeah.
This one, like I said, this one is the second level up. The lesser one than this was still with 4 inputs. It's only $300, I think. It's just ridiculously cheap. So if I just have one camera and one computer I'm going to plug into it. Something like this is great. You plug your computer, like you could switch to slides, and then you go to your camera if you're only going to do one camera, and it sends it out. This plugs into my computer.
Could we do our slides at the same time? We're working with this piano though. I mean, we switch songs and such up there. At the same time we're live streaming.
You can, like this computer, if I plug, this is a interface to go to the TV. I can say mirror the display, and I can have what I see here be sent to that as well at the same time. There are ways you can, or split your video signal. You get an HDMI splitter, and it will send one thing to my switcher and send another thing to my projector. Not a slide projector. We don't use those anymore. My video projector. So you can, from Amazon, buy inexpensive, and I say inexpensive, meaning you can also get cheap that won't work well.
And I mean, one of those cameras could be, how far back away from the stage could we mount that and still get a good picture?
If you had, that camera has I think a 25x zoom. So from right there, I can zoom the whole way to basically you're seeing this much of my face clearly.
So you could probably mount that 60 feet.
Yes. We had cameras. We had Sony cameras that had 20x zooms, and our room I think was 75 feet back, and I could get from here to here on my speaker. You really don't want to get any tighter than that on somebody, but I could get a head to toe shot. I could get a tight shot like this and follow them around with a nice fluid head. It was smooth as glass. You can get a tripod with a fluid head for $300 or $400. You're going to spend more. That tripod was $120, $130, and it says it has a fluid head, but it's really not very smooth. It's not very smooth. So certain things you really just need to spend the money. The brand that I would recommend for tripods and fluid heads is Manfrotto. It's an Italian company. They make good stuff. You can separately get a tripod and head and pick which head you want based on how heavy your camera is. So you can get a heavy duty one, pay more money, but that camera weighs just a couple pounds, so you can get a super inexpensive one. And then it makes such a big difference when you're following somebody. They also
we actually have a sound booth off the corner. I suppose we could mount it once you get too much movement, like you're talking. Mount it right there at the soundboard.
Yes.
So you could control when you need it.
Yeah. Center is ideal, just because it's the most natural feel to watch. You're looking straight on, but every situation is different, and you do what you have to make it work.
I mean, I think that's something we ought to. I don't know. I think we're kind of doing it, but we're doing it real good.
Mm-hmm.
And another question: we've got a grand piano that we've got problems with.
Oh,
Supposedly, the guy that tunes it says it's cheap.
oh, there's plenty of those.
Tune everybody with it.
Oh, that's not good.
I know. We're tossing the idea. I mean, we talked about it board meeting a couple months ago, but since then it hasn't gone anywhere. We're getting electronic. A couple of our piano players balked at it. Like,
Yeah, I can
they don't
understand.
sound good.
They don't sound the same. It takes an adjustment, because with the piano, an acoustic, you're used to the sound just surrounding you and you're enveloped by it, and it's wonderful. The grand piano is just great. When you go digital, chances are you're not going to even have speakers on it. You're going to have to listen to it through in-ears or from a speaker on the floor. You can get digital pianos that have speakers built in.
That's true too. Yeah.
And that's another option, is if you have one that has speakers built in.
We have monitor. We have a monitor right there at the piano. We can do that.
Mm-hmm. You can also have like just a little bit of volume coming out for the speakers to help the piano player hear themselves a little bit better, but to not overwhelm the room, and then run a line out of it into your house to mix it in the room. Just help them with the transition. That is a hard. If you're not used to digital pianos, it's a hard transition to go from an acoustic to digital. It can be. It's the same keys. It's the same layout. You play it the exact same way. But if you're used to doing something for 40 years a certain way like that, once you make the change, as much as I love a grand piano, I love it. For doing a worship band, really give me a digital, because what you can do with it is so much, and you can control it better, and it's just so much easier to work with.
That was a Nord. I think I did it was a Nord.
A Nord, N-O-R-D,
Yep.
a Nord Stage. The Nord Stage pianos are not cheap.
They're pricey.
But the cool thing about a Nord is it has Nord 3 has three separate sound generating sources. One is piano, one is organ, like a Hammond organ,
I wish I would have ordered too.
and the other one is a synth sound. And you can layer any three of those any way you want. So you can have piano and bring just a nice little pad underneath it to fill it out. When I play, I'll like at the church, I'll call up an organ, and then maybe I'll just bring the little strings up underneath it just to fill it out, or call up an electric piano underneath. And you can mess around with it, or you hit piano and you got a great sounding piano.
They sound good.
They do. They sound really nice, and you can, for a lot less money than a Nord, get a good sounding.
I mean, like, what's that?
This is $4,000 or $5,000. The newest Nord Stage 88 key is, I think, $5,000. It's not cheap. That's a lot of money.
We paid a lot more than that for a grand piano.
Well, and you tune it every month. How much does that add up? You can get
fairly cheap. But
you can get cheaper pianos. You can get a good. Action is important. I would say, if you can, get your pianists, if you're making the switch to digital, to play it. Go to your Sweetwater Sound and say, play all these and tell me which one has the action you like the best. Some of them feel more natural. I have one at home that feels almost like you're
That's what they said
spongy.
something about weighted keys.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one has weighted keys. 88 of them weighted, so it feels just like you're playing a piano. That's super important. That's, as a piano player, that's something that I say. If I want to play a piano, I want weighted keys. If I'm playing an organ, well, I want the light plastic keys because the technique you use to play it is different than when you're playing a piano. You expect a certain amount of tactile resistance. Yep. And they make these digital ones that actually have hammers. They don't do anything other than give it the hammer action feel. There's actual mechanism. The hammers are actually moving inside of them, but it's for the feel. And that's a real thing for pianists. It really is.
Okay, well, I better get ahead.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Back there, grab some snacks. There's the listing of all the tech stuff we use. If you want to take it, use it for food for thought.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Great job.
There's so much to go over. Oh my goodness.
And you get up there and you never know. You have to be ready because you don't know where they're going to go. You don't know what they're going to ask you. So you're like,
Well, that's the first question she got about organization. I'm like, I'm not organizational.
right.
I do tech.
Seriously, very, very good job. And obviously, I already know that you know this stuff really well, so you can go where they want to go with it. But it was well done. You were very good at that.
Good.
So the kids are going to be lucky to have you this year.
I'm excited about it. I'm
I
so
know you
excited
are.
about it, man.
To get this going, I'm gonna shut off this mic so people don't miss the
I don't know if
conversation.
you can do this. I was going to offer to take you to lunch so we can talk.